So I was reminded of a really important principle this morning that I want to share with you that I think is going to help you better organize your training and organize the process of building your game in the most powerful and efficient way possible. And I still cannot believe that to this day I am being reminded of this over and over and over again. And so I was doing a journal contemplation this morning and considering whether or not I want to take on a new series of projects in Deep Game. And I'm thinking about the energy and the time and attention it's going to take on these new projects and whether it's worth diverting my attention away from the core of the Deep Game teachings in order to take these on. And even though they're interesting and they'd be fun and there's benefit to doing it, ultimately, I realized that if I divert my attention and energy away from the core of the Deep Game teachings, I am sacrificing the most important thing that I'm offering you as a player. And so ultimately, I decided not to take on these new projects and that all of that attention and energy is better spent on what we do best here. And I thought back to this particular off season. I was going into my junior year, I believe it was. And I decided that I want to do every single thing I possibly can to have the best season of my life the next year. And so every training method and scheme I could possibly come up with, I did. I was doing track work and plyometric work and full 45-minute long core workouts and powerlifting and Olympic lifting and even a little bit of bodybuilding in there, believe it or not. I was doing all different kinds of skill workouts, shooting 1,000 shots a day, doing full court scrimmaging, ball handling workouts at home. And it all amounted to 6 hours a day of training, 5-6 days a week or something like that. And believe it or not, at the end of all that training, the biggest disappointment of it all was that my game barely changed. It was so shocking that I could put all of this effort into all of these different things and get almost no result. It's sort of like an investor who puts his money into every financial opportunity he finds, and yet after he's left with much, much less capital to put into the investments that are actually going to produce the return. And so this is, you may have heard this called the Pareto principle or the 80-20 principle before, which is really fundamental, and it applies across all of life. And it states that 80% of your results will come from 20% of your actions. And so in our training, and even in the way, I'm going to apply this in a moment to actually structuring your game, which is a really powerful way to apply this. But in your training, first of all, when you're looking at what are the things that are actually producing the results you're looking for, it's a lot less than you think. And so the following summer, after that big, gigantic 6-hour-a-day failure, which honestly left me with really bad knee issues and some chronic injuries that were nagging me throughout the season, the following year, I simplified everything down and I was doing really fundamental basic stuff. And I was training using the training schedule that we've shared multiple times in Deep Game across these talks. And the net result was I went from 9 points per game to 24 points per game in a single summer of training way less and doing way fewer things in that training. My results absolutely exploded. And the reason for that is because, to use that analogy again, I was taking all of the capital that I had, all of my time, attention, energy, and applying it to the stuff that was actually producing the results, in the same way that an amateur investor will jump at every opportunity that he has and put his money, spread his money thin across all of these different investments. A veteran investor like Warren Buffett, his strategy actually is just to make one good investment per year. And some years he doesn't even get one, but he puts all of his time and energy into the one that's going to yield the biggest returns. And so with taking this approach to mind in your training, what are the specific things that are yielding the biggest results? What are the most important things that you can be doing? I guarantee you, it's not going out and doing a whole bunch of track work and like all these different weightlifting methods and the crazy stuff that I was doing back then. It's going to be really simple, basic stuff. And the more attention and energy that you spend on all the stuff that's not producing the biggest return, the less you have to spend on the things that are producing the big returns. So ask yourself, like, what can I remove from my training rather than what can I add to it? What can I remove? What can I simplify? How can I make this even more refined and exact and precise and efficient for the things that actually matter? And another, like I mentioned earlier, a really powerful application of this principle is in structuring your game. What attacks and moves do you actually want to master? Because I guarantee you, the best approach is not going to be learning 30 different moves and trying to master all of them. The best players in all of basketball history had a couple really, really dangerous weapons in their game, and that's it. That's it. If you watch old school, not old school, but late career Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, their game was so simple. They only did a few things most often, and they would spontaneously have these miraculous shots that happened out of nowhere, but that's not what they're practicing in training. In their training, it's very basic. It's like Kobe would go in and shoot 1,000 fadeaways from the left block and then go to the right block and shoot another 1,000 fadeaways and just sharpen that weapon over and over and over. And one of our coaches actually, Damon Altizer, said one year at our camp, he put this really elegantly. He said, "You can master all the jabs and kicks in the world, but somebody with a really sharp knife will still kill you." And so think about what are your really sharp weapons and put your time and attention and energy into those, master those. Don't think about how can I do everything perfectly and do everything well. What can I master? And then put your time, attention, and energy into those things. So I know the impulse is to do as much as you possibly can. And it comes from a good place. I have that same impulse all the time, trust me. But the more I find myself doing that, the weaker and more watered down my results actually are. So concentrate and make your focus more potent on the things that really matter and really yield the best results. Don't spread your capital thin across many, many investments and every possible investment that you can get into. Find the ones that will yield the highest return. And I promise you the approach that's optimal is a lot simpler and a lot more basic than you may think. And it's going to require probably a lot less training and a lot less effort because you're putting the effort into the things that matter. So again, this is a really fundamental principle. I guarantee you if you're really driven, you're going to have to remind yourself of this over and over again, but it's worth it. Find the things that you can remove. Ask yourself, what can I remove from my approach? How can I simplify this? Not what can I add and how can I make this more complicated? So again, I hope this helped you out. This is a really, really powerful thought experiment to do and continue running on yourself as you go throughout your career. And I hope it helped you out. So I will see you in the next one. Hey, it's Taylor. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, the best thing to do right now while it's fresh in your mind is to head over to deepgame.com and join us in our free masterclass. Now, this is where you'll learn all 8 laws of the deep game and all of the fundamentals that you need to know about the part of basketball that's played with the mind. We've had players call this the best hour of basketball learning of their lives, and it's completely free right now. So head over to deepgame.com to join us, and I will see you there.